Hello, viewers, and welcome to the latest episode of The Huddle. Tim Pool here, editor of Gambling Insider, and I'm with Anton Janner and Oscar Froberg of Abios. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
To start off with, and I'm going to, in no particular order, we'll go Anton and then Oscar. Could you tell us a little bit about your respective roles and more about the company as well?
Yeah, of course. I'm Anton. I have a background on the tech side, so I've spent most of my time at the company as CTO, although that exact title has changed somewhat now during the Kambi group reorganization. But that's not really relevant to this. I mean, with that, obviously, I've led the tech of the company since we started, and while we've always been in esports, there has been a shift from B2C to B2B, and further on to more specific products within the sports betting space. So obviously led the team and tried to make sure that what we have brought with us from each step before makes us more relevant in the next one. Yeah, I think that sort of summarizes it for me.
Yeah, I'll take over. My name is Oscar. I founded the company together with Anton, and I am and have been since the founding CEO of the company. My responsibilities have been everything else other than the tech and development side, which has been Anton's responsibility. So all the commercial functions such as sales, marketing, finance, etc. Even been managing a lot of the scouting of the data. And now Anton and I have, we could say, sort of a shared responsibility over the trading, I guess, where Anton is more on the tech side and I've been more on the personnel side. Yeah, my background is within business and economics and finance. I have a master's degree in finance and always been an avid esports fan and consumer of streams and played a lot of games, in particular Dota 2 and World of Warcraft. So yeah, I think Anton very briefly mentioned our history. I mean, we've been around for almost 11 years now. We founded the company in March of 2013. But the current form of the company, which is basically our business-to-business strategy, we pivoted to that in early 2016. So the company has been under its current form for the past 8 years, I would say. Yeah, and today we are one of the world's leading esports data API widget/visualization and odds providers. And we are since 2021 a Kambi Group company. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of Kambi. We were acquired officially in September of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Well, excellent. Thank you both for joining us. Always fun to talk to someone in the esports betting sector, and of course, always good to speak to someone who, even if just by extension, having been acquired, part of the Kambi Group, good partners of ours, and have been around for a long time. I'm going to ask you both sort of questions throughout. Plenty we can discuss. I got a first one for Anton, and it really bases itself on where does esports fall within sports betting at the moment? And this is maybe a slightly different question that I ask to normal. Normally, I ask, will esports betting overtake traditional sports betting? And you can give me your thoughts on that if you want. Anyway, I think it's very polarized. I think people within one camp say never. Others say, of course, it's within 5 years we won't even be having this discussion. But probably more important is right now, where does it sit within the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm happy to give some thoughts on both there, but maybe starting out where we are right now, I think it heavily depends on how you invested in it, and maybe that goes without saying, but I think it really shows today if you look at big operators out there that have had a at least somewhat sort of grown up angle on esports as a segment since years back. It doesn't have to be like the 10-11 years that we've been around, but say at least the last 4 or 5, esports can be a significant part of the total sportsbook turnover. Simple as that. if you've treated it as a sort of second class long tail sort of citizen or product in your sports book, I think that's what you're gonna get. It's not much harder than that, really. So I don't think there's a blanket answer as to what size or what proportion of a sports book it is today. Obviously, there is some sort of weighted average out there, but I think what we really try to emphasize from Abios and what we talk to customers and prospects about is how you invest in it, how you make it relevant to sort of the important end users, so you can grow it into a significant part of your GGR, basically. And I mean, to go on to the second part of the question there, will it ever overtake traditional sports? I think if you look at all traditional sports under some sort of umbrella term, and compare it to all of esports, which in itself is an umbrella term already, I'm gonna leave that unsaid. I think we're gonna have to get into a new kind of generation of computing and games for that to be a reality, maybe. But if you look at esports as a group compared to large traditional titles, yeah, of course. I mean, if you look at Sportsbook, where they have invested a lot, it is right up there with sort of the traditional heavy hitters in sports betting. Even if you start to break it out now by individual esports titles, even those are climbing up the ladder in terms of top GGR in some of the sportsbook where appropriate investments have been made over the years. So, I mean, will it be in the mix as any other traditional sports? Yeah, pretty soon. I mean, it already is in some books. Will it overtake? I'll leave that unsaid, I think.
Interesting, yeah, and certainly what I'm getting as a main point from you is kind of you get back what you put in with esports. A topic I wanted to ask Oscar about, Latin America at the moment in sports betting. I think every show we go to, every company we speak to, LatAm is very much one of the hottest topics. When it comes to esports, what's the situation? Is it the same? And obviously we have Brazil upcoming sports betting regulation, but that's very much specific to Brazil. What about LatAm as a whole region?
Yeah, LatAm is one of the key markets for our future growth and for, I think, every company's within esports future growth. I mean, South America and LatAm, is very populous. I mean, there's so many people. It's most of the economies are still growing, and the population there is very interested in both sports and esports. And so, in particular, for some esports like Counter-Strike and League of Legends, LatAm are huge markets. And also for us, being an odds provider, LatAm is a huge market for the sort of traditional sports games, such as e-soccer or e-basketball. And we already, within the Kambi network, we already have quite a bit of fairly large customers in, a subset of the LatAm countries where sports betting is regulated. And in those jurisdictions, we're already seeing tremendous growth and a huge interest in basically all of our esports products, or all the esports products that are relevant to that region, such as the games I just mentioned. And when it comes to Brazil specifically, I think that is one of the most exciting markets for 2024 and onwards for us. I mean, I don't know exactly how many people there are in Brazil. I think it's around 220 million people in Brazil. And looking at the demographics, the population is also quite young. And so a lot of people are very dedicated Counter-Strike and e-soccer, previously called FIFA, now called EAFC. We call it e-soccer for simplicity. Very dedicated players and fans of those products. And as we all know, they're huge soccer fans. And even the big soccer players, like Brazilian soccer players like Neymar, like he likes to stream on Twitch sometimes to play Counter-Strike with the Counter-Strike professionals, which also brings a huge audience to the scene. And we think that when it is properly regulated and the sportsbooks are able to start offering esports, it's going to be a huge market for us because we already have customers that are customers to the Kambi Group that are intending to be live in Brazil from day one when it is regulated. And we already do know in Brazil that fantasy betting on, or fantasy sports on esports is very, very large. And so we're very excited, and we're hoping that everything comes through later this year and that we can start seeing some real numbers towards the end of the year. Yeah. I don't think I have much more to add there.
Yeah, no, plenty of excitement when it comes to Brazil, and interesting to hear the kind of the different sports. I mean, maybe it's better I don't speak about FIFA, because since it moved to EA FC 24, I've just found the game a lot harder. But that might just be a personal experience. I wanted to stick with you, Oscar, for this next question. If we move a little bit north, how about North America generally? And obviously that it varies state by state. What's the kind of esports picture there at the moment?
Yeah, the North America is a very interesting market, and a market that we have had on the radar for our future growth for a long time. Unfortunately, North America has been sort of slower to develop for esports than what we might have hoped a few years back when it started regulating. The reason being that, as we know, all states aren't regulated yet for sports betting, and all states definitely haven't yet regulated esports. And so esports regulation is lagging somewhat behind sports regulation in some of the states. And, some of the big states still haven't regulated, like California, Texas, like at all.
Yeah.
And so I still think there is much to come in North America in general. The biggest challenge in North America, I guess, for all companies who want to operate in the esports betting space is that ensuring that you follow all regulations and have all licenses, which is paramount, should be paramount to anybody, but is especially important to a company like Kambi, makes it quite difficult to navigate the whole space, and it also isn't very suitable for small actors or startups. I mean, I think one of the big sort of synergies, or one of the big, one of the great benefits of being acquired by Kambi, as we saw it, was that we could get help with all these licenses and regulations and sort of piggyback off of Kambi's, one of the world leading legal teams that work with these kind of questions day in and day out. And so we're able to leverage all of the Kambi licenses, regulations, and so on, and are able to be, or to offer our products in all of the states that do allow esports, and we'll continue to do so with the aim of being licensed from day one in all the states that do open up for esports. But again, that's one of the reasons why I think esports betting in North America hasn't. I mean, it's doing okay in some states, but it hasn't maybe had the explosive growth that we would have hoped. I think another reason for that is the games, or are the games, looking at the games that are popular in North America. So the best games currently for betting globally, as we see it, is in particular Counter-Strike and FIFA, e-soccer and e-basketball. And then following that comes League of Legends and Dota 2. And none of these games are like the primary games in the States, right? I mean, e-soccer or soccer as a sport is a lot larger in Europe and in South America, at least in a relative sense, as compared to North America. And some of the biggest games, computer games or video games in North America, are like Call of Duty. And Call of Duty still isn't a great betting game. We hope and intend to make products around Call of Duty in the future, especially as more and more states in the US regulate for esports. But as of now, it isn't one of the big drivers of GGR for the sports books, and that is where most of the interest, I think, in the US is. And so we need to sort of either build products for the games that the North Americans love, or we need to convert sort of the North Americans into the esports that generate more betting turnover. So there are a few challenges in North America, but we're still very optimistic, and we still see it as one of the big future growth markets. But summarizing, there's still a long way to go in North America, and a lot of market or ground to be covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting prospect of whether sort of Call of Duty can become more of a betting product in the future in North America. My next question is for Anton on a technical side. Bearing in mind North America, South America, globally, esports betting has grown to the point where there are now a number of suppliers across the sector. What does Abios offer that other suppliers don't?
Oh, I think the good question, and it I think breaks down into different factors and obviously different benefits, where you come from as someone who is out looking for a supplier like ourselves. But I mean, fundamentally, I think you can make a big distinction between what we offer from Abios and a lot of let's say larger legacy providers in the space, where we have a clear focus at Abios on esports. We all come from sort of a background, whether solely personal or semi-professional, have been sort of avid gamers. We care about this product. We want to make something that is interesting and that sort of pushes the boundaries of what these products not only look like in traditional sports, because there's definitely some catching up there to begin with, but pushes the boundaries even outside of that. So I think what you need to first, I think you need to make a distinction between us, sort of that do proprietary trading. We put our own probabilities and odds out into the market and stand by those, so to speak. Which is very different from maybe buying some more, I guess, sure what the best way to word it is, but let's say an aggregate odds feed from somewhere else. That's maybe the main distinction. Then if you look at what benefits we draw from the group that we're in, coming back to what Oscar just said about how actively Kambi works with regulation and access to jurisdictions and making sure that everything is by the book and perfectly executed on that front. I think we sit in a very unique space where we are this sort of bespoke esports product that is fairly uncommon in the market still, even though there are more and more actors in general out there. But that we can combine that also with the regulatory sort of compliance framework that the Kambi group offers, and sort of market access, makes us a very unique proposition, both on product quality and commercial market access. I think that's sort of what stands out most.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to follow up with you, Anton, and I think the first part of this question you've probably kind of answered in that last answer. I want to ask, how can you help operators kind of reach a new audience within esports? But a second part of the question, how betting focused is the esports audience as a whole? Because if everyone who gamed, let's say over the age of 18 as well, if everyone over the age of 18 who gamed bet, that market would be huge. But obviously there's, I don't know if it's as easy as having a percentage, but there's yeah. So my question is, how betting focused is the market as a whole, the esports sector?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question that I'm not sure we have a clear answer to. I mean, obviously we have some pretty good projections of what we think the market size is today and how it might grow into the future. But if you look at sort of the betting interest of the potential user group, as in gamers in general, I think a lot there remains to be seen. If you look at the mechanics of a lot of these games, there is a lot of, let's say, betting or sports betting or fantasy betting, similar concepts built into a lot of them. So I think the mechanics of it all is not too unfamiliar to a big slice of this audience. How that transitions into real money betting on a sports book is something that we work on quite a lot ourselves. But I think it comes back to what I just said around the product. Me personally, I'm not super excited by an Excel sheet looking sports book, like sort of the run-of-the-mill sports book look today. And I think that is what we're trying to sort of bridge or build over now, and build products that feel more, I guess, thought through, maybe more sort of digitally for a younger audience, more sort of smooth, interesting, and engaging overall. But with that sort of sportsbook product at the center still. So I think there is a lot of, I guess you could call it untapped potential in the user group, where there are people who probably would be interested in a product, but they just haven't seen a product that makes their heart tick, basically. So I think that's what we're trying to deliver step by step here.
Yeah. Some really interesting concepts. Really enjoyed speaking to you both so far. I've got a final question, and this one's for Oscar. But Anton, if you have any final words, by all means as well. The question for Oscar is, it's quite a broad one, really, given everything we've discussed. 2024 specifically, in the coming months and the rest of the year, as a whole, not just from Abios, what can we expect from the esports betting market?
Yeah, I'll pick up sort of where Anton left off. I think that up until now, both ourselves and our peers in the sort of esports betting space has been sort of catching up to the offering that traditional sports has had. So we basically have, and when I say we, I mean Abios and our peers, have basically been trying to build products that emulate traditional sports betting. So we want to have like the same amount of markets. We want to have, bet builders. We want to have, I don't know, a good live bet offering. We want to have stable margins, et cetera, et cetera. We want to be able to compete with, or sportsbook want to be able to compete with each other based on the sort of standard betting product. And like esports has been somewhat behind, but it's now catching up, both in terms of uptime and like all these add-on features like cashbacks or sorry, cash outs and so forth. But what we haven't really seen yet, and what I think we may start seeing during 2024, but especially 2024 and onwards, is sort of innovating the sort of betting experience, like what Anton talked about, where betting has sort of looked like an Excel spreadsheet, and all of the sportsbook look more or less the same. At least they look similar, and we haven't really utilized the digital nature of esports to create unique experiences or betting experiences, and we haven't been able to tie the betting into viewing experiences, which we should be able to do given the digital nature of the sport. And there's so much innovation and so many that can take place, and that probably will take place. And we have so many ideas, and I'm sure that our peers have a lot of ideas as well. And I'm pretty excited to see who will be able to sort of create a next generation betting experience once the industry has catched up to the level of the traditional sportsbook. Because I think we should be, both given the fact that esports is inherently digital, and given the fact that our audience is very, are digital natives and very well versed in watching or using your phone or laptop or whatever. We don't really need to cater to the 50-plus-year-olds when we build esports betting products. And so we think that we have a good idea of what's going to work and what we can build in the years to come. But it's going to be interesting to see what our peers have planned and who actually gets it right. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But again, that's sort of whether there's going to be a sort of betting revolution in 2024 or not, it's difficult to say. But it definitely will come within the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Just to wrap that up, I think there are so many ideas that we sort of have in the backlog. Some of them we have sort of proof of concept technically to see what works and what does not. But at the end of the day, where we are right now, we have had to prove the esports product on the same terms as any other sports to be able to sell it to sportsbook managers and operators out there, right? But we're getting to a point now where we can show that we know what's going on from sort of a traditional sportsbook and traditional metrics point of view, and getting into a space now where we can start to build next generation product, which is going to be really exciting, both as Oscar said, to start doing internally, but also to see what others might come up with going forward now.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it sounds like there's plenty to look forward to this year, but certainly beyond. Oscar and Anton, thank you both for your time. Really enjoyed speaking with you both.
Great talking to you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks. And to our viewers, thanks for watching.